Hello, in this video today we're going to be going over the basics of the Maya graphical user interface. Now, all the way at the start of our Maya interface we have the menu line, which consists of all of these menus up here. The first 7 menus will always be around, which are File. It's got handy things like New Scene, Open Scene, Save the Scene as, Increment and Save, Import, Export, all sorts of handy stuff like that. Edit has what you'd usually expect from a program like this: undo, redo, cut, copy, paste, delete, duplicate special, group, ungroup, parent, unparent are a couple of the handy ones. Modify's got a whole bunch of different tools for selecting things and moving them around and all. I particularly like Center Pivot and Align tool. Create has, it's a little self-explanatory of a menu. If you want to create anything from here, then go to NURBS primitives, go to polygon primitives, create a sphere, cube, whatever floats your boat. You can create lights from here, cameras from here. Display has a whole bunch of different options for how you're gonna show everything. One of the handy ones, for instance, is the first one on the menu, which is grid. It'll toggle the grid on or off if you don't want it there. Next we have window, which offers access to all of the different little windows and editors that you can get inside Maya, like the attribute editor, the node editor, the hypershade editor, all of that. Then we have assets. Assets are, and the assets editor are for grouping nodes together and attributes and everything. It's very organizational. Now if we go back and we go down, then we've got our animation in our menu set drop down box, but we can change that to polygons and it'll change the rest of our menus here. If we change it back to animation, you'll see they all change again. If we change it to surfaces, they change yet again. All of these menus have different little tools for whatever you want to focus on while you're working. Now we also have down on our shelf here, we have polygon tools, we have deformation tools, we have animation tools, dynamics tools, rendering, all sorts of stuff, whatever floats your boat. This is our shelf here. It's very handy. If you want to add something to the shelf, like say you're going to be doing a project that requires a lot of combining things, then just Control Shift click and it'll add the combine tool to your shelf. Now if we go beneath the shelf, we have our panel toolbar, which rests just above our panel. It's got different settings for the camera. This one over here will select the camera that you're viewing through, for instance. Then we've got different shading options: wireframe, smooth shading, wireframe unshaded, textured, use all lights, shadows, toggle viewport renderer, all sorts of handy dandy stuff for how you're going to view things in the middle here. Now in our primary workspace, if you hold down Alt and you left click, then you can orbit around your scene. If you hold down Alt and you middle click, then you can pan around. If you hold down Alt and you right click, you can zoom in and out like this. You can also zoom in and out by using your mouse wheel. To the left of our primary workspace, we have our QWERTY toolbox here, which is QWERTY. Lines up with Q, which is the select tool, W, which is the move tool, rotate is the E tool, scale is the R tool. Then we have our last tool here, which is Y. And so for just demonstration here, let's go up to our shelf and we'll click on our polygon box tool. Now we'll drag in the grid, drag up for height. Now we're back at our selection tool from Q, and it'll just let us select things. Not much going on there. If we press W, we can move it around. If we press E, then we can rotate it. If we press R, then we can scale it. If we press Y, we can go back to the last tool that we used, which in this case would be our polygon cube tool, and then we can use it again. And then it'll go back to the previous transform tool that we had before, like the scale tool in this instance. If we pressed T, then it would clear what we have on our last tool used, and then we'd only be able to select things. So just beneath our QWERTY toolbox is the panel layout area. Now by default we're just in this one panel here. It's a single perspective view. We can go down to 4 view if we wanted to, and that would show us a top view, a front view, a side view, and still the perspective view that we had before. We could also go to the perspective/outliner layout here. This shows us our perspective view over here and our outliner here. If you want to make one of these panels primary, tap space on it and it'll make it fill up the whole workspace. The same thing goes with the 4 view. If you want to only view from the top, just tap space on it. Front view space, side view space, and single view space. We've also got other useful panels in here such as the Hypershade editor, and there's also a lot of other ones for whatever your heart desires and whatever you're working on that you can find if you click on this little guy here. For now, let's go back to our single perspective view. So to the right of our primary workspace here, we have our channel box and layer editor. If we click on one of our objects, such as pCube1 here, then you'll be able to see its position in the world relative to the center of our grid. You can see it's at 1.271 on the x-axis, 3.223 on the y-axis, and 3.647 on the z-axis. We've also got a rotate value in here and our scale values in here. Now this is very handy if you want to make sure that your cube or whatever you're working on is in an exact place. So you can just make it 222 on all of them if you wanted to, change it to 50, 50, 50. I accidentally did 510 for that, but it's all good. Change it back to 0 if we want to center it. And if we want to make sure that our rotation is perfect, we could change it to 180, 90, 50, 60, 30, whatever your heart desires. This is much more reliable than using the movement tools or the rotate tools, because you'll often end up with decimals there. Of course, this isn't always ideal for animations, but if you're trying to build on the grid, this will help you a lot. Now, just beneath that is our layer editor. So just for a short demonstration here, the layers are similar to how they work in Photoshop, and we've got different layers here for display, rendering, and animation. Let's just go for our display one right now, and we'll click on our layers drop down and create a layer from the selected. Now this box will be inside of this one layer that we have. It's named layer 1. We could change its name if we want to. Let's make it one layer. Change from layer 1 to one layer. There we go. Big difference. Oh, the name is invalid because we can't have white space. So let's just change it to the layer. There we go, and we can change its color if we'd like as well. Now if we press the V right here, it'll toggle on the visibility, toggle it on or off. If we press this one right here, now our object is frozen and unrenderable. You'll see if we go to render, it doesn't show up. We can't select it anymore, we can't move it around. If we press on it again, it's still frozen, but it is renderable, as you can see, like so. And then if we click it again, it'll go back to normal. We can move it all around, and it's still renderable. Now if we go down to our attributes editor here, and we'll select on one of our objects, it will display all of the attributes that it has. So this one is composed of pCube, pCube shape 1, polycube. It's also got the layer that we assigned to it, whereas our other box here does not have the layer because we never assigned it to one. And we've also got the material. Our default material, Lambert 1, is applied to it. Now, just beneath our primary workspace, we have our time slider right here, and we also have our playback range slider. These two are linked together in that the time slider is determined by the playback range slider. Let's make it go all the way there. Now our scene takes place between the frames 1 to 48. We can make a change to bring this one over to 23. Now we only have it starting at 23 and ending at 48. Change that maybe to 35 and it only ends at 35. If we wanted to make our animation longer in general, we can double click on this, change it to 70 or whatever value we wanted, and then change our range slider over here, and it'll go all the way to 80 now. Now of course to the right of that you have your standard animation playing tools. We've got go to the start of the playback range, we've got step back 1 frame, we've got step back 1 key. We don't have any keyframes in this right now, so it won't do anything. We have go play backwards, we have play forwards, we have step forward 1 key, still won't do anything, we don't have any keys, step forward 1 frame, and of course go to the end of the playback range. Now just beneath all of our animation stuff there we have the Maya command line. This is useful if you want to learn about the Maya scripting language, which is called MEL. I believe it stands for Maya Extendable Language, but I'm not entirely sure. It's just a scripting language. It's not necessary to use the program. If you're into scripting, then it's cool and you should check it out, but otherwise you can safely ignore it. It will also display, sometimes if you mess something up, it'll have like little errors over in this section here that might be good to look at. Then over here we have our help line. It displays short help tips for tools and selections. If we mouse over something in our shelf, for instance, like polygon cylinder, our help line down there is telling us that a polygon cylinder creates a polygon cube cylinder on the grid. And that is essentially the basics of the Maya user interface. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, just leave them in the comments section. I hope you enjoyed the video and have a wonderful